All right, let's get ready for another deep dive, and this time we're focusing on the Samsung Galaxy M35 5G. We've been poring over RechargeMyTopup.com's in-depth review, and we're going to unpack everything you need to know.
It seems like Samsung is really going for that sweet spot, packing in tons of features, but without that flagship price tag.
Exactly. Imagine you're in the market for a new phone. You want something that can keep up with you, but you don't want to empty your bank account. The M35 5G is looking pretty tempting, but is it all hype, or does it actually deliver? Well, let's find out.
Starting with the design, RechargeMyTopup.com says Samsung went for a sleek look. And you got a few color choices too, Thunder Gray, Daybreak Blue, and Moonlight Blue.
Oh, Daybreak Blue, that sounds pretty cool. But they managed to squeeze in a huge 6,000 milliamp battery. That's got to make the phone a bit bulky, right?
Yeah, you're right about that. The review mentions it weighs 222 grams, so it's definitely a bit heavier than some other phones out there. But when you think about it, a battery that size, you could potentially go for days without charging.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. No more charger anxiety. What about the display? They're making a big deal about this 6.6-inch FHD plus Super AMOLED screen with a 120 Hz refresh rate, no less.
And this is where things get interesting. That 120 Hz refresh rate means everything is going to be buttery smooth. Scrolling, swiping animations, it's going to feel so responsive.
Super AMOLED, though, I thought that was usually reserved for those super expensive flagship phones.
Yeah, you're right. Seeing this in a mid-range phone is a pretty big deal. You're getting vibrant colors, deep blacks, amazing contrast, all without breaking the bank.
And on top of that, they didn't skimp on durability. Corning Gorilla Glass Vegas Plus. That's pretty tough stuff, right?
Absolutely. That's designed to resist scratches and impacts. Perfect for anyone who's a little bit clumsy.
Okay, so it looks good. It's built to last. But what about the brains of the operation? The review mentions a Samsung Exynos 1380 chipset, built on a 5-nanometer process. Now, I'm no chip expert, but what does that even mean?
So think of it this way. 5 millimeters refers to the size of the transistors on the chip. The smaller they are, the more you can pack in. More power, better efficiency, smoother performance.
Got it. So basically, this phone can handle anything I throw at it.
Exactly. And they paired it with a Mali G68 MP5 GPU, so you can multitask, stream videos, play demanding games. No problem. But what's really interesting is they've included a vapor cooling chamber.
Hold on, a vapor cooling chamber. I thought those were only for gaming PCs.
Not anymore. This is actually a first for the M series. It helps to dissipate heat, especially when you're pushing the phone hard, like when you're gaming.
So no more phone overheating and slowing down mid-game.
That's the idea. The review actually put it through some rigorous testing. And the M35 5G didn't even break a sweat.
Wow, that's impressive. And we can't forget about storage. You've got options 6 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, or even 12 gigabytes of RAM, and 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes of storage, plus you can expand it up to 1 TB.
It's crazy, right? Whether you're a casual user or you need tons of space for photos and videos, the M35 5G has got you covered. And speaking of photos, let's talk about that camera.
Okay, so on the back, we've got a triple camera system, a 50MP main sensor, which seems pretty standard these days. But the review really highlighted the OIS. What's so special about that?
Ah, yes, optical image stabilization, or OIS as it's known. This is huge, especially in a phone at this price point. It basically helps to counteract shaky hands, so your photos and videos are going to be much sharper.
So no more blurry pictures.
You got it. And it's particularly noticeable in low light conditions, where you might normally get grainy or dark photos.
That's awesome. So we've got the 50MP main camera, then there's an 8MP ultra-wide lens for landscapes and group shots, and a 5MP macro lens for close-ups. Oh, and we can't forget the 13MP front-facing camera for selfies and video calls, of course. It even supports 4K video recording.
It really seems like Samsung wanted to cover all the bases with this camera setup, from everyday snapshots to more creative shots. There's a lens for pretty much anything you can think of. But let's talk about the feature that everyone's buzzing about, that battery life.
Right. A 6,000 milliamp battery. That's like a power bank built into the phone. You mentioned earlier it could last for days. Is that actually realistic?
Well, it obviously depends on how you use it, but the review said it easily handles a full day of heavy use, even with gaming and video streaming.
Okay, I'm convinced. But what about charging? How long does it take to juice up that massive battery?
Well, it supports 25W fast charging, which is pretty decent. It'll get you back up and running in a reasonable amount of time.
However, there's always a however, isn't there?
Well, some of the competition are offering even faster charging speeds. But I think for most people, 25W is going to be just fine.
All right, fair enough. Now, before we move on, let's touch on software and connectivity. We're looking at Android 14 with One UI 6.1.
Which means you're getting the latest Android experience. Combined with Samsung's user-friendly interface, One UI is known for being really intuitive and customizable.
And of course, you've got all the essentials: 5G, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth, 5.3, USB Type-C. And a nice bonus, they've included stereo speakers. For security, you've got a side-mounted fingerprint sensor.
reliable, and convenient. So as you can see, the Galaxy M35 5G comes with a pretty impressive feature set, but the big question is, does it all come together to deliver a great user experience?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? On paper, it all looks great. But does it actually live up to the hype?
From what we've seen in RechargeMyTopup.com's review, it definitely seems like it does. They were really impressed with the overall performance.
Yeah, they specifically mentioned the Exynos 1380 chipset and how it handled everything they threw at it. Even those demanding games ran without a hitch, thanks to that vapor cooling chamber.
Right. And that cooling system isn't just about preventing the phone from getting too hot. It's about making sure it can keep up with you, no matter what you're doing.
So you can game for hours without any lag or slowdowns.
Exactly.
They were raving about the display, too, a visual feast, they called it. I'm really curious about this Super AMOLED screen.
It's not just about the colors and the deep blacks, though. It's that 120 hertz refresh rate. It makes everything feel so smooth and responsive.
Yeah, I'm starting to see the appeal. But what about battery life? Did it actually live up to the hype?
Oh, absolutely. They said it easily lasted a full day, even with heavy use, like video streaming and gaming.
A full day.
A full day.
That's amazing. I guess that 25W fast charging isn't too shabby either.
Yeah, it's not the fastest out there, but it'll definitely get the job done.
It's all about balance, right? You want a phone that can last all day, but you also don't want to be tethered to a charger for hours.
Exactly.
Now, what about the camera? For me, that's always a big deciding factor.
Well, RechargeMyTopup.com had nothing but good things to say about the 50MP primary camera, especially with that OIS. They said it took sharp, detailed photos, even in low light.
I remember them saying something about that. OIS is a game changer for shaky hands.
Oh yeah, for sure. It makes a huge difference.
So even if you're moving around or shooting in low light, you can still get a great shot.
Exactly.
They also like the ultrawide lens for landscapes and the macro lens for close-ups.
It sounds like Samsung really put together a versatile camera system.
They did. Okay, but there have to be some downsides, right? No phone is perfect.
Well, they did mention the phone is a little bit on the heavy side. That massive battery has to go somewhere, I guess.
222 grams, huh?
Yeah, it's not exactly a featherweight.
But I suppose that's a trade-off you have to be willing to make if you want all-day battery life.
True. They also said that while the 25W fast charging is decent, some other phones do offer faster charging speeds.
Yeah, but like we said before, it's a trade-off. And honestly, for most people, 25W is probably going to be just fine.
Agree.
Overall, though, it seems like RechargeMyTopup.com was pretty impressed with the Galaxy M35 5G. They called it a mid-range powerhouse. And based on everything we've talked about, I can see why.
Yeah, it seems like Samsung really hit the mark with this one. Great balance of performance features and battery life, all for a pretty reasonable price.
So we've gone through all the specs and features, but how do you know if this phone is the right fit for you?
Well, that's where it gets personal. You have to think about what's important to you.
Right. What are your priorities when it comes to a smartphone?
Exactly. Are you a hardcore mobile gamer? Then you'll probably want a phone with a powerful processor and a good cooling system.
If you're all about social media, then maybe a vibrant display and a long-lasting battery are more important.
And for the photography enthusiasts out there, a versatile camera system that can handle any situation is a must.
So before you jump on the M35 5G bandwagon, take some time to really think about what matters most to you.
What are your must-haves?
What are your deal breakers?
Once you have a good understanding of your needs, then you can start narrowing down your choices.
And then the fun begins.
Researching different models, comparing specs, reading reviews.
It's all part of the process.
But before you get lost in all of that, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
There's no such thing as the perfect smartphone. The best phone for you is the one that best fits your lifestyle and your needs.
That's a great point. So take all this information, think about your own situation, and choose a phone that you'll be happy with for years to come. If you need help with all that research, be sure to check out RechargeMyTopup.com.
Oh yeah, it's a great resource. Tons of reviews, comparisons, buying guides. It can be overwhelming trying to figure out which phone is right for you, so definitely head over to RechargeMyTopup.com if you need a little guidance.
They can definitely help you cut through all the noise and find a phone that fits your budget and your lifestyle.
Exactly.
Well, there you have it, folks. We've taken a deep dive into the Samsung Galaxy M35 5G. We've broken down the specs, analyzed the reviews, and give you everything you need to know. Sleek design, gorgeous Super AMOLED display, powerful performance, impressive battery life. This phone really does seem to have it all.
We talked about the camera too. Optical image stabilization, versatile lenses, and of course we couldn't forget that user-friendly software and all the essential connectivity features. M35 5G is definitely a strong contender in the mid-range market.
At the end of the day, though, the decision of whether or not to buy this phone is up to you. We've given you all the information. Now it's time to think about your own needs and preferences.
What are you looking for in a smartphone?
What features are most important to you?
Once you've answered those questions, you'll be well on your way to finding the perfect phone.
And if you're still not sure, Do some more research, read more reviews, compare the M35 5G to other phones in its class.
The more informed you are, the better.
All right, folks, that's it for today's deep dive. We hope you found it helpful.
Until next time, happy tech hunting.